So this is Contemporary Chinese Revised Edition, Volume 2, Lesson 4, and it's the second vocab list. So we're going to start off with the expression to sing. 唱歌, 唱歌. You'll notice that this is one of those verbs that's made up of a verb, two characters, one which is a verb, one which is a noun, therefore the object of the verb. And they lay that out for us here. So there's the character that is the verb, and there's the character that is the noun, song. So again, I just want to emphasize it's important to be aware of how the different verbs that we learn are made up, because there are some circumstances where, as I've said before, we need to split the two characters in the verb apart and put something in the middle. An example of that would be, for example, if we wanted to say after singing, you're going to do something. So you would say 唱了歌 blah blah blah. So excuse me. There's an example where we've had to split the verb 唱歌 into the two characters and put something in between. And the same for the verb to dance. 跳舞 跳舞 and you know, this, you would do a similar sort of thing. If you want to say after dancing, you would say 跳舞, but you put the le, 跳了舞, and then go on to say what was done after that. So that's one reason why it's really important to pay attention to how the verb is constructed, where it's a two-character verb like that. The other reason is because if, for example, we wanted to say something like she sings very well, she sings very pleasantly, okay, very pleasantly. So the expression for pleasant to listen to, pleasant to hear is 好听. Makes a lot of sense, right? It's an adjective, and when you look at the characters, that makes a lot of sense. It's good to listen to. However, if I want to combine that with the verb 唱歌 to say something about how somebody sings, then I have to do this, and this is a new grammar point which we'll talk about in class, but just to briefly raise it here. So we would have to say 他唱歌 唱的, and that is down the bottom of this list. We'll look at that shortly. 很好听. So she sings very pleasantly. Now you'll notice that here we have the verb 唱歌, but you'll notice that I've repeated the first character 唱, because 唱 in this expression, in this two-character verb, 唱 is the actual verb. The point about this kind of combination, where we're talking about how somebody sings, what's the effect of their singing, we use the character de, which we're going to see further down on the list, and then we put our description of how they sing after that. So this is called a predicate complement. So complements are things that we, expressions, characters and so on, that we add after verbs to add to their meaning. And this is a very common form when we have a verb plus this de, and then plus some kind of adverb and adjective combination afterwards. 他唱歌唱得很好听. So again, just to emphasize, with this kind of verb where it's made up of one character being a verb, one being a noun, if we're going to use this form of adding meaning to, describing how something is done or what the effect of something is that is done, then we need to repeat the verb part of the two-character expression like that. And so the same would be for example, let's have a look. So we said to dance is 跳舞. Now, if we wanted to say she dances very extremely gracefully, okay? So we're going to say 她跳舞跳得很no not 很非常优美. There we go. 她跳舞跳得非常优美. So we've got the original form of the verb 跳舞, and then we've repeated the verb part of it, the first character, which is the true verb, and then we've added the da, and then we've added the bit on the end which describes how she dances. So 非常优美, which if you look here is graceful, fine. Okay, moving along. So this is an adjective, which late, which I'm sure we've learned before. So we've learned it for the word for nighttime or evening, 晚上. I think even in our last lesson we actually learned it as well. And we also have the adjective early, 早, and again 早上. And when we're talking about arriving early, arriving late, we can use 晚 and 早. There is also an expression, actually this is kind of additional, so I hope you don't mind, but we can also there's a combination of these two things which make a useful expression, which is 从早到晚. So when we want to talk about a period of time, we can say from early to late, from morning to evening, or it can also mean all day. 从早到晚工作很忙. So my work is busy all day, from morning to night. Moving along, we have the expression especially or special. So especially is an adverb, so we'd add that before either a verb or an adjective. And special is an adjective when we're trying to describe a feature or characteristic of someone. So the expression is 特别 excuse me. So we might say, for example, we want to say, we want to describe something about a person. We might say this person is really, really good. Let's just keep it simple. And we would say 这个人特别好 特别好. So there we're using it as an adverb because after 特别 we have an adjective 好 特别好. So moving along, let's go on to the next one. We've got chairman, 主席. If you analyze these characters, and these are not ones that we'll learn separately at the moment, but we will come across later on. 主 means main, 席 means a seat, a place or a position. When we talk about a seat, we don't mean a literal chair kind of seat. We mean, for example, a seat on a committee, the seat on a commission. So this is the main or the primary seat. So therefore the chairman, like the chairman of the board or the chairman of the Communist Party. So in China, I guess the highest leader is called 主席. In America, it is president. 总统. The 统, that character appears in a lot of different words. 统一 meaning united, for example, but it also appears in the word 统治, which means to control or rule a country. So this and then 总 means overall. So this is the overall person that is in a ruling position. I guess you could look at it that way. So that's president. Now in Australia, we have a prime minister, and that in Chinese is 总理. In 总理 the 理 comes from words like 管理, which means to manage or administer. So this is the person who has the overall responsibility for administering the country. 总理. Moving along, we have foreign affairs, as in foreign business, like what the Ministry of Foreign Affairs would take care of. 外事. 外事. The 外 here means outside, but it also means foreign. So for the Chinese, anything that's outside of China, of course, is foreign. The 事 means business matters, affairs, things that have to be done. So we have foreign affairs. 外事. Next word, activity, which is a noun, or to exercise, which is a verb. And the word in Chinese is 活动. 活动. So I think in our dialogue, one of the characters says to one of the other characters, 你是不是有什么外事活动? 有外事活动. So I'll just put that there. 有外事活动. So here, because we've got a verb already, 有, the 活动 then is a noun. However, you'll often hear Chinese people giving you advice about staying healthy, and they'll say 需要活动 meaning to move around, to exercise in a way, but it's also just moving around. So in some workplaces in China, you'll see them, stopping for a period during the day, and all of the staff in the office will 活动. So they'll do some kind of exercise or some kind of movements just to move around and keep the blood flowing. So that's an example of where 活动 is used as a verb. Next one we have is question or problem. 问题. So again, whether it means question, whether it means problem, which in English are different things. I mean, they can mean the same thing. We can say a math question or a math problem. But I guess in English also, problem does have a negative connotation where there's a problem that needs to be solved. It's getting in the way. It's not a good thing. So in Chinese, it can be used in both the positive and negative sense. The other one I would add to that is the word issue. So if we're talking about, issues like climate change and so on, issue. So 问题. Now here we have the word for to answer or to reply, maybe say to a question, for example, which is 回答. And if you look at that first character, we already know that. We know that from to return. For example, 回家. So here, when we're answering something, obviously we're returning, something back to the person that asked. And 答 in itself also means to reply. And if you notice here, this is also a two-character verb. But the difference with the earlier verbs is that both these characters are verbs. They mean to reply, to respond. So they're never going to be split apart. You're never going to put anything in between them because they're both verbs. So that's to answer or reply. And if I want to sort of use a verb to say to ask a question, then what you would say is 问题. 问题. For example, 问一个问题. 我想问一个问题. 我想问一个问题. So you can use the verb 问, which is part of the word for question. 我想问一个问题. Okay, this next one, 见, to see or to meet. So we've learned the expression before, 见面. 见面. I might just write that in there to remind you that what it looks like. 见面, which means to meet. Now, the thing about using 见面 is that if you want to say I meet with him, then there's a particular way you have to say it, and that is 我和他见面. Well, let's say, for example, I would like to meet him. 我想和他见面. However, if we just use this single character form, 见, then it's a little simpler. We can say 我想见他. 我想见他. I want to see or meet him or her. 去年, last year. 去年, last year. So this is the year that has gone. 去. So while you're practicing that, then I'd like you also to think about how do we say this year and how do we say next year. Okay, and here we have the de that we used up above, and it talks about it being used to introduce a complement. And remember I said above, a bit earlier on, when we were talking about 唱歌唱得非常好听. The 非常好听 is what's known as a complement, and as I said, complements always go after verbs. They're only ever associated with verbs. And this complement, by the way, too, sorry, this is a grammatical term. It doesn't mean complement in the sense that we normally mean it, maybe as, oh, you're looking beautiful today. It's not that kind of compliment, but it is a compliment in the sense that it adds meaning to something, and in this case, it adds meaning to verbs. So only ever verbs, and it's always after the verb, and the complement, like for example, 非常好听, is always connected to the verb by de. So the de always comes after the verb, and then after that you add in your complement like 非常好听.